Alliance blog, the Alliance blog, the Alliance blog, the Alliance blog. Alliance? If you put an S in front of Alliance, you have Salliance. That's me.
This is Lois Brain here, and I'm advising you to do yourself a favor and watch the Alliance Guys podcast.
Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's the radioactive Papa Danny Limelight, United Wrestling Network World Heavyweight Champion. And make sure you tune into the Alliance blog every week. You heard it here first. Straight from Papa.
Are you ready?
Power. You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
I'm building an alliance.
God bless the internet.
Okay, let's party.
It's showtime.
It's time for the Alliance Guys podcast with your hosts Kevin Frazier, Jaden, DKM, and J. Cal.
What is up, everybody? This is the Alliance Guys podcast, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your premier source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. My name is J. Cal. His name is DKM. That guy's name is Jaden. We are the OG Alliance Guys, and every Thursday we come to you in some variation, some shape, some form to talk to you about wrestling.
Good night, everybody. No, just kidding.
And that's the show for this week.
Yes.
I wanted
to say it was long.
I want to have the I'm actually working on this, and this is a little behind the scenes stuff. I'm trying to make the YouTube channel have a video that will run for 24 hours without me doing anything. I'm working on it.
Do an omnibus of DK being grumpy.
I don't have the time or the patience to search for every single video of DKM being grumpy.
I'm on.
Willie, oh shit. Willie Bowen has the Tyrus joke of the day. Tyrus has a weight problem. He can't wait to eat. That might somehow work into my dad jokes on Friday. I don't know. That was pretty good. I really like that one, Willie. Congratulations. That's a winner.
Where do you post your dad jokes?
You can find the dad jokes on the TikTok of the Alliance blog.
The TikTok?
Yeah, let's try that again. TikTok.com/the Alliance blog is where you'll see my dad jokes. They're also posted in a couple other places, but for the Alliance family, that's probably the best place to see it.
That is awesome. I also heard you can see them on one of our sponsors.
Yeah, we don't talk about those guys. Hey, veamos Lucha Libre, the premier source of Lucha Libre action and video clips. I don't know what to call it. 995 subscribers.
Let me know when you get to 1,000 so I could unsubscribe.
Oh, thanks.
No, just kidding.
I was So on this page, on the YouTube page, I have a list of our co-conspirators, and I list SoCal Uncensored because at the time I was still doing a lot of work with them. They're not really doing anything at this point, as far as I can tell. And then Kevin Frazier, who used to co-host the show with us here, like I don't think he's adding any more content to his YouTube page, and I kind of feel guilty about maybe like disconnecting those guys from the page, but at the same time, they're not really doing anything with their page. So,
Do you have Dog Pro Wrestling's YouTube page listed as an affiliate?
yeah, let me look. I think it is. I think it's one under my co-conspirators.
If so,
yeah.
let me know how, and I'll get somebody to do it for the dog page too, because I don't know if they are, because I don't know if that's something they know how to do.
We'll work on that. But yeah, so if you go to the YouTube, the Alliance, I mean, obviously a lot of you guys are watching it right now on the Alliance blog. You'll scroll down on the homepage, and it'll be like whatever's happening right now. So the live video of this week's live stream is the first place you can click, and then there's popular videos where we have matches from Andrade and Rey Fénix and Laredo Kid, or La Rebelión versus Nueva Generación Dinamante, or Fox News personalities, Tires for Tires from Pro Wrestling, or El Hijo de Viking versus Bandido, et cetera, et cetera. Then under that, it says past live streams, where you can watch all the content that you missed that we do on a weekly basis. And then under that, it says co-conspirators. And right now you'll see there's SoCal Uncensored, there's Dog Pro Wrestling, there's Kevin Douglas 24/7. There's our friends Pro Wrestling Wire Radio, formerly known as PWW. Our pal Rick Del Santo runs that channel. And then lastly, our pals, I don't think any of them except for Gary are still working for the NWA, but the This Is Pro Wrestling podcast, which was Gary and Dr. Rob Stinson and Will Martin. But I don't think they are producing any more content these days.
That's a shame, It's time consuming, it's energy consuming, but it really does add a lot to not only the product, but it adds a lot to the people that are following it. Sometimes I know we joke around about doing this podcast, like, oh, we got to do this podcast, but I look forward to it every week.
It's definitely one of those things. And anyone who's in the content creating business, it's not always easy, but it's always rewarding, if that makes sense. Like,
yes,
I sometimes struggle to get content up on this page, but every time I do, I'm like, there's that sense of satisfaction. And, we have such a great community here on this page that I really like to interact with everyone. And, we've got in the chat right now, I mean, Willie Bowen's here, Jeremy's here, Noob is here. And I think I saw a few other people pop in as well. I mean, it's cool, man. This is like fun for me. And, I know DK's kids are a little bit more older. They're growing up. I don't even think most of them are living in the house anymore. But I got two little ones downstairs, and I got a wife downstairs, and I could be attending to that. But I choose to hang out with you guys because it's kind of like my escape too. After a long week of work and all that other BS and drama that you have to deal with in life, I like to come here and just talk with my friends, have a good time talking about wrestling, sometimes making fun of wrestling, but, being with my pals. And it's always a good time, and I always appreciate you guys being here.
I appreciate you too. And it's kind of like a lot of guys have what they call the Call of Duty hour. And for a lot of people, a lot of men especially, it's the only way to get any kind of expression out is to just hang around with their friends and play Call of Duty. Well, this is our version.
Yeah.
And this is with all you guys too. We think of this as your form of therapy. I only charge you a couple $100 an hour.
Yeah.
I know you. If I did, would I admit to it?
What, the paying for me for therapy? Or I have the degree.
So you claim.
I have a degree. I have 4 of them working on what is that? Is that an extension of a degree? Or is that a separate degree? I haven't figured out the semantics. Is going from a bachelor's to a doctorate a second degree, or is it just like, you just make the degree bigger?
It's going up a degree.
Going up a degree. So you still have 4 degrees, but it's just one of them is like the world champion degree, and the other 3 are like TV title degrees.
If they're in the same area, Like you would say, I have a doctorate. Like I have an associate's in management and I have a bachelor's in management. But all I talk about is the bachelor's because that's my highest.
Yeah.
If I had an associate's in science, like chemistry, then I'd go, well, I have an associate's degree in chemistry and a bachelor's degree in management.
Well, we have a doctorate here in chemistry with our awesome hosts and our fans here at alliance-wrestling.com.
You are far too kind. But so yeah, glad to be back. Obviously, last week I didn't make the show because I was in San Francisco, and I did leave my heart there.
Boo! Boo!
So right now,
real quick, with a face like that, DK, you should say boo.
Hey, boo boo.
Hey, boo boo. It's 104 degrees in my backyard right now, and in San Francisco it was a nice 70 degrees for most of the time I was there, and it didn't get much hotter than like 72. So I really did appreciate the weather out there, and I got to see a wrestling promotion who is partnered with United Wrestling Network on more than one occasion, West Coast Pro Wrestling. I'm working on a podcast exclusive that you can find on our Spotify channel, talking about my time there at the West Coast Pro Wrestling. That show was highlighted with talents like Shelton Benjamin and, of course, Alex Shelley. A lot of speculation about where Alex Shelley's going to land now that he is a free agent. He's free and clear to sign anywhere. And I very much enjoyed myself, and I thought I didn't really know what to expect in that fan base and that crowd, and they were excited from match one, and it was really cool to be in that environment. Like I said, I've never seen a wrestling show in that area, and as DKM will attest to, a Dallas crowd is going to be very, very different from a Houston crowd or an Austin crowd. San Francisco and Los Angeles have almost nothing in common when it comes to pro wrestling and that dynamic. And it was pretty cool, man. It was cool to see people excited about wrestling. And I feel like sometimes, especially in Southern California, you get those guys who are too cool. They show up to the wrestling show, but they don't really get invested in it. And at this crowd, the folks were very much invested in every single match. It was great.
I look forward to it. I love that. One thing I'm really looking forward to is the two upcoming dog events, because one of the dog events in Pennsville, there hasn't been wrestling in Pennsville since the Dennis Carluzzo days.
That's wild.
That's a long time. Yeah. And then the other thing is while there's been wrestling in the Riverton area at the Sacred Heart Church, the fans there were very appreciative because there's not a lot to do in that town. There's a basketball league, like a youth basketball league, that's actually hosted at the church. That's one of the biggest drawing things you can do in the town. So I can't wait to see how the crowd's going to react to see something like that, because they might have seen some pro wrestling promotions running. They've never seen Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. There's a difference between a show and Dog, which runs events.
Yeah, absolutely. Willie Bowen says Alex Shelley and Allison Kay are from his neck of the woods in Michigan. I do. I think I do know that Alex Shelley was from Michigan. I think Chris Sabin was from north of the border, which kind of made that tag team a almost like a Can-Am connection, if you will.
Sabin was Canadian? I didn't know that. I thought he was from Michigan too. That's why they're in Motor City Machine Guns.
Oh, you know what? That makes a lot more sense. I thought he was from. Now I'm gonna have to look it up. I thought Sabin was from Canada, but maybe he's just got his training at Border City Wrestling. Maybe that's where I'm getting mixed up at.
Back when they first started, I wasn't an Alex Shelley fan. I always liked Sabin better. And I wasn't even that big of a Motor City Machine Guns fan until they went to Ring of Honor the first time, and they were presented better, and they just looked better. They looked more like a tag team, not two guys thrown together like they were initially in TNA.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I've been a fan of the MCMGs.
By the way, you are correct. Sabin is from Michigan, but I was also correct that he debuted for Border City Wrestling in 2000. So, I think I was wrong about where he was born, but where he got most of his training and experience was Border City Wrestling. which is a Canadian wrestling promotion. And I agree with you. I was more of a Saban guy myself. I really liked Chris Sabin when I first saw him, and my introduction to him was through TNA's X Division, and of course that's somewhere he excelled very well at. And I always thought Shelley was more of the Marty Jannetty of the group, if you will. He never really seemed to excite me in that first run with TNA wrestling, but just watching him again this past Saturday and seeing how everything he does is so crisp in the ring. I mean, he just looks like $1 million. That's a guy who I wish, had no one been knocking on his door for him. That's a guy that I think makes any promotion he goes to instantly better.
People forget back in the day when Sean and Marty were first a team, Marty was the better one in the veteran. And sometimes when you get working with somebody who is better with you, you raise to their level, and all of a sudden you become great too. And then in some cases you even exceed that level. And I think Shelley, when he started working with Saban, he moved up to a completely different level, and then he just shot himself with a rocket and just surpassed that significantly.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that. What's interesting down your way, DKM? What's happening in the state of Texas when it comes to pro wrestling? Are you keeping up with your home state?
Why would I? Of course, the most interesting thing is that ROH and Collision are coming here to do their tapings for the end of July and August. The esports building up in Arlington, Texas, where I used to work. So,
that's the that esports arena, right?
Yep.
That shocks me.
That's right in the middle of the. Remember the old baseball field when we were walking?
Yeah.
It's on the other side of that. So, like, if we had gone from Globe Live past the now football field, the next building would have been the esports. It used to be the convention center.
Okay. And
they signed some type of thing, so they turned it into an esports thing. So that's only fills part of it. There's still an arena on the other half. So that will probably get taken. They're talking about building a new convention center. So, hotel convention center combo. So if they do that, then that'll probably, that building will probably go all esports.
The people their thing now, the trend now, is to not build buildings, to build entertainment complexes with an entire area of different things to do. If the convention center had a good planning agency, they can turn that into a huge entertainment complex. It could bring a lot of attention to the area and a lot of value, because people are built about arenas. I'm a hockey fan, and everybody always talks about hockey arenas. If for some poor reason you were a fan of the Arizona Coyotes, Alex I don't know how to say his name, Morello or whatever his name was.
Yeah.
He's a very wealthy man, but he wasn't well liked because he wasn't well trusted. But the idea was, when they were trying to keep the Coyotes, to not just build a facility to play hockey, and not just build an arena, but to build everything around it: housing, business, other forms of entertainment, other reasons to bring people to that area. Because arenas and convention centers by themselves don't bring money as much as like those complexes do, because you have to have a reason to come to the area.
Well, that's what's going on ever since they built the Globe Life Field, and we were on the opposite side. But if we had been more in the center area, that's what they call it, the entertainment district. That's where the restaurants and venues and hotels and everything are starting to go up. So, and that's where they want to build the new convention center, and hotel. So it'll all be part of that entertainment district area.
Years ago, in Anaheim, California, where my Angels play, they used to talk about the platinum diamond of, oh, we just lost DK, the platinum diamond, which was like Disneyland, Angel Stadium, the Honda Center, the Anaheim Convention Center. And I always thought it was just the most ridiculous name because it's like, yeah, Disneyland. If you ever go to Disneyland, there's restaurants, there's hotels, there's everything, there's concert venues, there's everything you could want. And then you go to Angel Stadium and you're like in like there used to be a Mexican fast food, not fast food, freezer food, like the frozen burritos. They would make them in a warehouse next to Angel Stadium. That's all gone now. They've replaced it with luxury suites and condos. But yeah, it's funny to see how the growth and all that happens. I do want to talk about something else with regards to Texas wrestling. Our pal Dave Marquez said earlier today on his Facebook page that he is he's all in Texas. Now we know that in the past, United Wrestling Network has had a relationship with the Reality of Wrestling, Booker T. We've seen Danny Limelight join the Reality of Wrestling roster. We've seen talents from Memphis, Kay Toomer, and there's another guy who I can't remember, have now been appearing in Reality of Wrestling. And I'm just wondering for DKM, less you, Jaden, because I know you're not super familiar with Texas wrestling, but what are your thoughts about United Wrestling Network setting up shop in your Republic of Texas?
Depends on where. Texas is huge.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I couldn't tell.
I know. Most people don't get it. But, I mean, seriously, Texas is huge. So the wrestling fans on the northwest side of Fort Worth are different than the wrestling fans on the southeast side of Dallas. That's all considered one metropolitan area. Wrestling fans in Houston are completely different than the wrestling fans in than Dallas-Fort Worth, which are different than the wrestling fans in San Antonio, Austin type. And so, here we go. And so it's, where are you going to run, and then what type of presentation are you going to put on? We used to like very, snug wrestling, as Gary Hart called it. Stiff for those outside of Gary Hart. We're not as gimmicky, although that's one of the problems I think with a lot of the small promotions around here. They get gimmicky, and really we're not that. I mean, you can have a gimmick. Manimal was a gimmick, but Manimal could wrestle. Underneath his Captain Caveman outfit was an actual wrestling, attire. And he actually could do wrestling moves and wrestling holds and stuff. And same with Kevin. Kevin might come to the ring with a cape and gladiator armor, but once he got in the ring, it was all business. And so the key is, I've watched Reality of Wrestling. Can't say I love it. It is what it is. It's younger talent, developing.
Do you think that it would appeal to wrestling fans in general? Because look, I'm not trying to say that you're a picky wrestling fan, but the kids that are watching WWE or AEW, do you think that they can relate to Reality of Wrestling, or is it kind of not similar to that?
I wouldn't call it similar. I mean, it does have a Houston flavor to it, but I think what it is, look, what attracts people, and this is what you see kind of in AEW, what attracts people is the idea of big time. And you're not going to, I always say you're not going to out WWE. You're not going to out AEW. Why anybody would want to besides Billy, I don't know. But so, I mean, can it develop a fan base here? Sure. Can it develop a fan base nationwide? Maybe. But, I mean, like you said, you went from LA to San Francisco. It's a different thing.
Yeah.
And so, and that's why WWE has casual fans, because it's kind of a hip and a trend, and you go see it. You're a fan for about 5 years, and then you move on, and the next group comes in.
The only thing that I know about what's happening in Texas is that I know that Dave Marquez used to have connections with a broadcasting group out here in Southern California. Now that group, I think, sold to somebody else. So I don't know if his connections are still there or if he's making new connections, but the goal is TV. And so when I see him say all in, I don't know what that means. I don't know if there's, I hope to God it's nothing to do with All Elite Wrestling, just for the sake that I want him to have some autonomy with whatever they're doing. But I know that he's been working on MLW shows. He's producing those shows now, and he can't get you signed there. Don't hit him up for a contract. Don't ask him to get booked. But he does production for them, and we're seeing a little bit more activity with United Wrestling Network. Like I said, they did that joint show back in June with West Coast Pro Wrestling. That maybe at some point that sees a YouTube release. I don't know, but I was just kind of curious. Go ahead.
One of the things that's helped Reality of Wrestling, of course, is Booker T's connection to WWE.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, some of his talent has made it into NXT. Some has, I think, made it to the main roster. Certainly, of course, the biggest one that people would know now would be Roxanne Perez, the former Rock C. So the first ROH Women's Champion, and then two-time NXT Women's Champion, and it's almost one of those cases where she's kind of so good they don't want to let go of her too quickly. And because there's been a lot of talk of her going up to the main roster, but I kind of like her where she is right now.
Yeah.
And it's probably better for her right now until, because, the truth is you get lost when you go to the main roster. And it takes a while, unless you're Braun Breaker. And he was an exception to that. And she could be, but she's very small, and smaller people have, it struggles to get over in the,
on the main roster.
On the main roster. And not just because Vince McMahon didn't push smaller people. I mean, come on. Why is Braun Breaker making it? Look at him.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't remember who said this to me, and I might be butchering it, but it's like, it turns out when you put a wrestler on a poster, people, that'll catch their attention. And that's unfortunate. Like, people who are more smaller, I mean, it's just not the appeal. When you see a wrestler who's built like Braun Breaker, I mean, it pops the eye, it catches the eye. And I'm not saying that a guy like Bryan Danielson, you put him on a poster, like, yeah, I still think that guy sells tickets too. But, when Braun Breaker, comes up from the developmental, and he looks the way he looks, and he moves the way he moves, and he's so damn fast. Yeah, there's a reason why he's made it on the main roster. Now, around, go ahead.
I was going to say, we can even look at that, something somebody brought up here about Camille being AEW. She finally made her finally made her AEW debut after lots of months, and she's there, and she's the muscle for the former Sasha Banks.
The Mercedes Moné muscle. What do you think that's a good move or a bad move, DK? And I want your opinion too, Jade, when you get a chance. But go ahead first, DK.
I think it's good if they tell the right story. And here's always the right story. The right story is at some point in 3 years, 2 to 3 years, the bodyguard ellipses the person who they're with. And if you can, I mean, say what you want to about Mercedes. She hasn't had the effect in the ratings that some people thought she might, but she's still a star.
Yeah.
And so if you can be working next to her, I mean, remember, she started as Nick Aldis's insurance policy. So did she go backwards? No. I mean, she took out Dr. Britt Baker, one of their, no, I don't agree. She took out Dr. Britt Baker, who was a long-term women's champion, somebody who most of her time wrestled on the top. That, I mean, if she's going to be in there, and she's going to be in there with top people, and they book her right, not something I necessarily have a lot of faith in AEW for, but if they book her right, she's in the right spot. Now, Jaden, do you agree or disagree with me? I really don't know.
I agree in the booking, both in the sense that it should be booked right, it'll help, and also that we don't have the confidence in the booking. But there's the Diesel effect. The problem with the Diesel effect, and they learned from Wardrow, in case you're wondering what the Diesel effect is, Vinny Vegas showed up in the WWF under the name Diesel and got associated with Shawn Michaels, who was a smaller, smarmy heel as his bodyguard, and got over in the process. Showed his personality, showed his wit, and had a good chemistry with Shawn Michaels that was able to translate into something to make himself over. The problem is they didn't capitalize on it right. They didn't know what to do after they broke him up, and it's the same problem they had with Wardlow.
You want to say wardrobe, don't you?
I did, yeah. And they have to know how to capitalize from that momentum, but the momentum is there to start with. Add to the fact, now, the one disagreement I have in her presentation is that I don't think the red hair works. And this is coming from a guy who loves redheads, so that says something. I don't think the red hair works on her because it doesn't make her stand out. I hated the gray hair because it always made her look older. But I think if they could have got something with a better hairstyle, with a better hair color that worked more with her, I think it would be more visual, especially because Mercedes Moné is so colorful. They either need something contrast, like a straight blonde, so it's not the color, or something unique also for her own look. I don't think the red works personally. But the image of her size, her muscles, her piercing blue eyes, everything she has is an advantage. Visually, she stands out. You could put her on the poster and people are going to pay attention.
A question for you on the hair.
Yes.
Do you think part of the reason that she's not blonde is because they have the gimmick going with Toni Storm and Mariah May right now, which is going to be two platinum blondes feuding with each other?
I think it has something.
You
a little bit.
Separate that.
But I believe she's been redhead for a while now.
She's gone back and forth quite a bit, actually.
I've only seen pictures of her, but for like maybe the last 4 months, I've seen her with red hair. So unless this is something they were planning for long term, and I don't have faith that the AEW does something like that. I don't know if that necessarily. I think it's more of a happy coincidence than a intentional idea for the blonde. But she doesn't have to go blonde. I mean, I still hate the gray. The gray makes her look older. I don't understand why women like that gray hair, silver hair look. But if she could do something to really make her stand out that's not the red, that maybe highlights. Another reason I think, now looking at that picture, that it doesn't work is the red hair is not that dissimilar from her tan.
No, it's
Well,
not.
I was going to say, would it be better if it was a bright red?
Maybe.
Yes, like a fire engine. Now you're talking.
If doing so will get that association with Eva Marie. And I know right now that's a sore subject to a lot of wrestling fans. I could have made so much money with Eva Marie and using that hate that they got from the smart fans and stuff for it. I could have made so much money with her in a manager role. My goal was like putting her with Bobby Roode when he first debuted, you know. But it needs to be something that either contrasts Mercedes or really, really has its own look to stand out. If she instead of going gray, if she wanted to go Cisco Silver, that would have been cool. That song. Sorry.
So as I'm reading all these comments about they better not Wardlow her.
They're going to Wardlow her. You know that for a fact. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say it's probably going to happen, especially if Mercedes has creative control, like she says.
So let me add my 2 cents because
I want to. Serious question here: are they currently using Wardlow? I don't follow very closely, but I haven't heard his name. Last time I heard it was in association with Adam Cole, and then I haven't heard anything since.
I believe he shows up every few weeks and then disappears again. But go ahead, Jay.
Okay, so at least when it comes to Wardlow, the last time he was on television, he wrestled Samoa Joe and lost, and that was back in March by referee's decision. The last time I saw Wardlow was back in February, where he wrestled a dark match in Arizona and literally just beat the living piss out of this guy. Exciting Evan Daniels, United Wrestling Network fans will know that guy. Beat the piss out of him in seconds, and it was almost an embarrassment for Evan Daniels. But yeah, I do agree with you guys that there is a lot of dangerous territory here because first of all, I'm very happy for Camille. Supposedly she's been signed since February, and it just seems like, wow, why did it take so long? I was listening to my good friend Scorpio Sky on the Chris Van Vliet show earlier today, and he had mentioned that he had been cleared to get back into the ring since March, or maybe even earlier. I don't remember exactly when he said he was cleared, but they still haven't even put him into a program yet. And what he pointed out is that there's an extensive roster as well as talents that are being used from New Japan Pro Wrestling, CMLL, Lucha Libre, AAA. There's so many moving pieces that there isn't enough TV time for everyone. So for Camille to finally get into a spot, and let's be honest, like, she's not starting from the bottom. She's being showcased with one of the top female names in pro wrestling today. Whether you like Mercedes Moné or not, whether you like Sasha Banks or not, you cannot deny that she has a star level that is unfortunately higher than a lot of the females that are in the sport of wrestling today. So putting Camille with her, I think, instantly makes Camille a bigger deal than, say, if she were to, start working dark matches with Layla Hirsch or some of the ROH talents. And it's not to put anyone down in ROH, but you're putting the former NWA Women's World Champion at a very high-profile area. Now, let's be honest, too. We know that Camille is a workhorse. We saw her evolution here in the NWA, but that's a small niche audience. That is not anywhere close to AEW's audience. And I would venture to guess that maybe not even a third or a fifth of the AEW audience watches the NWA. So for Camille to be introduced this way, in a similar way that she was introduced to the NWA audience, and that maturation process for her to be the silent Nick Aldis insurance policy to the person that was stealing the show every pay-per-view, I think could certainly be replicated in AEW without a lot of negativity. What they end up doing, though, I mean, sure, she could probably end up like the next Wardlow, and I don't even know if that's the worst case scenario either, because for a while there, Wardlow was pretty over and really did pop the live audience, and who knows, maybe if the same is for Camille, if she's pushed in that direction, maybe they'll learn their lesson this time and use that momentum in a positive way.
Well, going back to Wardlow, if anybody out there knows, is he out because he's injured, or is he out because creative doesn't have anything for him?
Creative.
But the thing, to go with what Jay was saying, I agree. I mean, let's be honest. You're talking about ROH. More people are going to know about Camille now than they would if they put her in a feud with Athena.
Yep.
Yeah, there is more eyeballs. And don't forget, Dr. Britt Baker, too, is no slouch. It has some name value, too, as an association.
No, I mean, before her injury, her 6-month injury and 6 months of they didn't have creative for her, she was probably one of the top, or probably the top female in there. And so,
I would argue also, other than MJF, she's the only wrestler AEW's ever gotten over, and I don't think AEW's gotten them over. I think they got her and MJF got themselves over. But
well, they let them get themselves over. I would say it was probably the right way to say it. And yeah, I mean, if I was Camille, I'd be very happy at this moment.
She's getting paid. She's on TV. She's associated with stars. People know her name now. Even if this is like the most she gets out, if she gets out of AEW, it still raises her stock to be seen for other places.
And I think they did mention that she was the NWA champion, of course, that she had been on before.
Right. And there was that confrontation with legit Layla Hirsch prior to the Empowered pay-per-view where she made her AEW debut. I mean, not in an in-ring persona, but as a character, she was introduced to that AEW audience. And I know that's 100 years ago when it comes to pro wrestling, but she has stepped into one of their rings before, but not in a competitive spotlight. So
but it
she's
gave
still
them
not
something to talk about. It gave them the connection that was needed.
Yeah. And Paladin saying that Wardlow is out because he has been verbal about saying that he wants to go to the WWE. Well, that's not the one I was trying to show. I was trying to show this quote. Wardlow is out because he says he wants to go to the WWE. I looked, and Brian Alvarez and Meltzer had said that he's hurt. He's more hurt than he admitted, and he was hurt back in January. But that actually contradicts what I saw, because I saw him wrestle a squash match, dark match for AEW back in February. So maybe he was just testing the freedom of his knee. I don't know, to see if he was healthy enough. But we haven't seen him on TV in quite some time.
It's also easier to cover things if you're just squashing somebody, unless your name is Kevin Nash, where you pull out a quad or something like that.
That's fair. But to answer Paladin's initial question, what are my thoughts on it? I think it's great. I'm always excited to see talent, especially talent that I spent a lot of time covering, cheering for, rooting for. I'm always glad to see them get to that next level, to get a bigger payday, to take care of their families. Camille did so much to carry the NWA in her time as Women's World Champion, carrying the Burke. I think it's only fitting that this opportunity that for her to be in AEW, I want to see her excel. I want to see her get the opportunities, and I see the comparisons to Jade Cargill. Like, I never thought she was a Jade Cargill knockoff or anything like that. I feel like, in some sense, Camille's probably better because she can wrestle well, and Jade Cargill has had difficulty demonstrating that she is a solid wrestler in the ring. She's a powerhouse, no doubt, but a solid wrestler, I still would give the nod to Camille. But we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. I mean, time makes a fool out of all of us, so we could all be talking about how great this is or how terrible it is, and something could change, and we could all flip-flop.
Well, I have one last AEW comment. And so this is the only American heavyweight championship that matters.
It's very blurry, DK, because of your filter, but
let's see if I can get
move it back a little bit. It's the filter, not the. There you go.
So anyway, So world class American belt.
That was that design. Not to flip too far into a different gear. Was that design the same design as the national title? I mean,
and the TV and the Pacific Northwest and the WWF.
It was a design that Parks, his first name is escaping me at the moment.
Reggie
Parks. It's a design that Reggie Parks pushed. And so when WWE went with it, and then he was selling it to all the others, that's one of the reasons WWE did away with it right so quickly.
Mm.
And then they were telling Parks to, when he did the next one, not to push it as the title for everybody. So, yeah.
All right, I can think of the Pacific Northwest. I know the national, the TV, the WWE, the Americas. What other titles had that look? I know I'm missing some.
What?
Over
the years, lots of. Oh, of course,
AWA Tag.
AWA Tag were based on it.
And a more modern look, Dave Marquez's connection with EPW Perth when they crowned an NWA Australian champion. It was that same exact look.
Right.
Yeah, it's a well-designed, well-structured belt that has the areas of interest focused properly. So it is a design that we have associated for a long time. It's very similar to how the NWA title looked like a lot of tag team championships were around in that period too.
Just as a point of reference, though, one of the things I find funny is that if you find anybody who will make that belt today, they all do it in silver, like mine was. But the actual American belt was gold plated.
Yes.
So I always find it funny that they run it, that it's a silver plated thing if you try to go out and buy it now. Sometimes they even have it in the color in blue, which I can't figure that out at all. But
I think there was a belt. I don't remember if it was the Americas, but there was a belt that looks like that. It might even been a different promotions, America's belt, that used blue. So that might be the reason.
Might be.
And for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, I'm pulling it up here right now, what the title looked like, or what this new AEW American title. This is the title that MJF introduced I guess it was last night or 2 nights ago, as he dumped the old international title in a trash can. And I'm sure this is all to play up the title defense that's coming up for the All In Wembley.
Yeah, it'll actually be interesting. He did the trash can thing.
Like a Lunger Blaze.
Yes. He did the trash can thing. It'll be interesting to see if they leave this as the American title. Because to me, there's no guarantee. My original thing was Ospreay will win it back, Wembley, have the big moment and home and stuff like that. Now I'm wondering, and it'll be interesting to see if they leave it this, or Ospreay will regain it and it'll just go back to being a international belt. And by the way, it was originally the All Atlantic, if I remember correctly.
The thing about one of the things that I do dislike about AEW.
He said doo-doo.
Yeah, I did. Is the amount of title belts they have. Because not only are they allowing their international talents to bring those belts in, so we saw Moxley with the IWGP World Champion when he had it. We saw like Commander with the Lucha Libre AAA like middleweight title, whatever it was. There's just all these damn titles, and like I see the TNT title and the world, the AEW World title, and then you've got the international title that used to be the All Atlantic title that's now the USA title, and then you got the ROH title, but they've also had the open weight New Japan Strong title, and it's like, come on, man, like It's not Oprah here. Everyone gets a title. I mean, what's going on?
Well, they even had what's her name? The one that had beat Monet and for the New Japan Strong belt.
Stephanie Bakur?
No, that's who.
Willow Nightingale.
Well, she won the CMLL title.
Yeah.
And I heard that she showed up on AEW with it. And
well,
it's bad enough they have enough titles on their own. They should unify the TNT and the International and Continental. And,
what happens if they don't end up renewing their deal with Warner Brothers Discovery? I mean, like, at that point, you have a TNT and a TBS title, and you're not even on those channels anymore.
Ask Dave Marquez. He probably knows that from experience. I'm not wrong. There was the MAV TV title. There was that
was it.
The Colors title. There was
no Colors title.
There was the KY Jelly TV Championship from Los Angeles. What was the
ADOC?
It was the International TV title. Then it was the MAV TV title. Then it was the TV title. No, it was started out as the International TV title.
It was the NWA International Television title.
Yeah, because they got me world.
Then as soon as and that wasn't even their world title because they had the NWA Heritage Championship, which was their world title until
that wasn't a world title; it was a regional belt. I hate when people get that association so much. Oh, there's the Garden State International World Heavyweight Championship belt.
There's Bob's. There's Bob's World Heavyweight Champion.
What would you guys say if the United Wrestling Network presented the Buckets for Rent television title?
Hey,
they shouldn't. They should have the Buckets for Rent Scrapyard Championship or Heavy Metal Championship. If you're going to market it right.
Bucket Champion.
You got to be careful what you're saying there because bucket sounds like something else, and that could get us kicked off of YouTube.
Yeah, it's like the Chicago.
You have a dirty mind.
It's like the Chicago hockey team. It definitely sounds like you're saying something else if you say it fast.
Hello.
You know how many times I would do that to my wife? I would say, "Hey, let's go watch the hockey. Let's go watch the Ducks play the Chicago team," and she'd say, "What did you say? You heard me."
We like Blackhawks. Yes, we do. We like Blackhawks. How about you?
I'm so glad that you're emphasizing the H there. Thank you.
It's done out of habit from people thinking you're saying something else. I was actually trying to not do it, and I still did out of instinct. But you understand what I'm trying to say.
40 pounds of rust. I like that.
But for the Buckets for Rent title?
Have you seen some of your buckets? They've had better days.
He keeps his buckets in very well condition. I watch him every week. Sure, trying to put you over.
Those are the buckets that don't go out.
Oh.
No, one of the neat things, and this is stupid J talk, but when a bucket goes out for a job and it's been out for a long time, because it'll go into the dirt so much, and if it's all rusty when it goes out, it'll come back so shiny and so new looking, and you just know they worked the hell out of that bucket because the sand and the dirt and the rock just cleaned all the rust off it, so it looks brand new when it comes back in.
That's a very slow version of sandblasting.
Yeah. It's
what do you mean, Paladin?
I don't like that word. I don't want to use that word, but Paladin says that the WWE audience are crying about it. I'm not sure what you mean. The US title, or what are you talking about, Paladin?
It's the America's title, first of all, and it's also it's another stolen angle from New Japan Pro Wrestling because it was Ospreay who won the New Japan United States title and called it the UK title. He had a brand new belt to do it. IWGP.
Oh yeah, but Lance Storm did that years before.
So that was great. That was the only thing I think Vince Russo ever did. I looked through. I actually tried to find something else that I enjoyed from his reign in WCW, and that's the only thing. And that shows you what happened. That even a monkey could type on if you get enough monkeys in a room, they can get Shakespeare written.
What do you call the cruiserweight title?
What was that?
Called it 100 kilos and under.
103 kilos and under, something like that. Yeah.
And then there was the hardcore title was the Stu Hart
Saskatchewan rules.
title.
What was it?
It was the Stu Hart Invitational title.
No, that was a different title, I think, wasn't it? Or it was because it was under Saskatchewan.
Maybe it was just the Saskatchewan Hardcore International title. The acronym was SHIT. I know that. And
so was his booking.
Did they okay. I know this is like 30 years ago, but did they drop the ball by not putting the WCW World Title on Lance Storm when he was doing that? I mean, he was a heel, but I felt like that whole shtick was over. Like he was getting some real heat, and they kept teasing like he was going to challenge for the world title and make it some sort of Canadian variant of what he was doing. Did they drop the ball by not doing that, Jaden?
I think because he was Canadian, the U.S. title should have been as far as it would have gone, but I think he should have been built up for a match. One of the things, Lance Storm was not known for being a bastion of charisma, but it worked really well for the gimmick that they gave him.
Sure.
And there was a lot of interest, and it was probably that and the West Texas Rednecks were my favorite things that WCW was doing at that time. I don't even think the West Texas Rednecks, I don't even think that was, I believe that wasn't Vince Russo. I think that was before that. But there was a lot of positive momentum that they could have got a good world title challenger out of that.
What about the tag team of Vampiro and the Great Muta?
I liked Vampiro, and I remember when he wasn't a well-liked person. I always liked Vampiro. I didn't like when he was with Muta because I never liked Muta being a second fiddle to anybody. Muta was always a special presence. He should have been something himself. But Vampiro was great. I love when he was feuding with Sting too.
They were doing those grave site matches. That was pretty dope.
Yeah, that was Undertaker ripoff, and that I liked less. But I just, Vampiro. I remember when he was the Canadian Vampire Casanova, and I found his figure in the dollar store and thought it was the coolest thing I ever had, and I bought it. But he had something always. I have a feeling he was one of those people that he was young and had a certain way of things, outlook in life, and it hurt him in the long run for his career. But he was always somebody with something special. Even now, if I don't think Billy knows how to use them, he could be used for something, but now they use them just like he feels like a holder on instead of somebody who was a leader in something special. He feels like somebody now who's holding on to that, like somebody who's past his prime, had his high school football glory, and now is just trying to hold on to it. And I believe that's not necessarily him. I believe that's presentation.
Well, I mean, going back to Billy Corgan's press conference in Mexico City with Kerry Morton before the head of the World's Vampire Tour, the reporter asked Billy if he was a wrestler, what kind of gimmick would he have, and he just looked over at Vampiro and said, "That's the guy that I would have been if I was a wrestler." So that's probably why we see so much of Vampiro in the NWA even now.
And that's why it shocks me he doesn't push Mecha Wolf more.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird, like the whole. I don't get. We haven't seen Mecha Wolf in a while, and we probably won't because I don't think he was at those tapings in Sarasota, and so I don't think we'll see.
Have they done he signed a contract?
Well, he is signed to AEW, or excuse me, he is still technically a freelancer, but he works with Lucha Libre AAA. He's now back working with the Crash, which again they stopped doing for a while because AAA and the Crash kind of fell out of favor. I guess they're back to it now, but I'm not entirely sure, to be quite honest. I like Mecha Wolf quite a bit. You guys hear me. I don't have anything negative to say about him, and he's always welcome back on this show. But I don't know.
I'm just wondering if one of the reasons that we haven't seen as much of him is I don't think the NWA would ever be Mecha Wolf's top priority. And
go ahead.
I don't mean that in a bad way. I
Right.
just mean with his commitment to Mexico, and I guess he still wrestles Puerto Rico too.
when he came on our podcast, when he came on the Alliance Blog podcast, he clearly stated that after AAA, the NWA was his priority. But we haven't seen him really since then. So,
which means you're not a priority if you're following another priority.
Yeah,
You're just next in line.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're not a priority unless you're being booked, right? Because he's not. You know, I think if it was up to him, he would be wrestling for the NWA on a regular basis.
I mean, he probably would be. I'm thinking, I'm trying to get myself in Billy's head, which scares me.
God, that's a scary trip.
That's dangerous territory, my friend.
But what I'm saying is that if AAA is his priority, you can only have one top priority. And so if that's his priority, I can see Billy being more, okay, well, we'll use you as we can, but not necessarily. And 100% don't know. I'm just saying, in my mind, I can see it being that way. Speaking of Billy and the NWA and all that stuff, I struggled to watch Power in the lead up to Crockett Cup because I knew what was happening because we'd been to Crockett Cup. And I struggled to watch Power during Crockett Cup because, well, we went to Crockett Cup. And quite honestly, I did not feel like it came across as well on TV as it did in person. Probably part of it's because they made 5 shows out of it.
Right.
And so I watched the first episode from the tapings that took place before Crockett Cup, but they're showing after Crockett Cup. So they had this introduction in which they talked about the Crockett Cup and the winner and stuff like that, and then kind of went into the show.
Can I interrupt you just for 1 second?
Sure.
Because I'm a dork and I see in the chat, Paladin said like, hey, AEW has the graphic is a certain contract, indicating that Camille isn't under contract yet because she hasn't got her All Elite graphic yet. So I took the liberty of making one for her. So there it is. Camille is All Elite. Let me get that comment off. There you go. Screenshot it, share it with your friends. All right. Sorry. Now I will back to your regularly scheduled commentary.
Back to my regular schedule. No. So then I kind of watched. It was hard to get into the women's match because we know Miss Kate's no longer with it. Yeah. They tried to be very generic on commentary because it's hard to. You can't say too much about things. So, of course, there's no mention of the new World Junior Heavyweight Champion. Somebody, maybe it was Gary Horn in Discord, I can't remember, made it sound like it wasn't the plan for Taylor to win. That kind of just happened after the Joe Alonso decided not to resign. And so now I feel like it's almost like a no man's land. I mean, I couldn't get into EC3's title match. I got into the only thing I got into was the squash match, which was Blunt Force Trauma. But I had a hard time getting into the rest of it, and I don't know how I'll do with the rest of these tapings. And I understand it takes a while for things to get filmed, edited, and approved by CW apparently. But man, this is killing me. I mean, it's making it very difficult for me to watch with any level of caring.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's entirely fair because, and again, the NWA only really has itself to blame with the way that they've set up their taping schedule. We are watching matches that were filmed back in February or March. And how excited can you be about content that is that old, And as we see on TV, like Missa Kate was unceremoniously not re-signed to the NWA, and that was made very clear in the weeks leading up to this match. And then all of a sudden now she's in the match, and I get that the NWA is kind of bound to use the content that they shot, but maybe don't make that announcement before the match is aired. Maybe use that after the fact, because look, as much as we still see like the NWA, we see the graphics for the upcoming events, the 76th anniversary show, on the original graphic, and I don't think I have it here on my computer, it showed, EC3 with the 10 pounds of gold. It showed Blunt Force Trauma with the tag team titles. It showed Kenzie Page with the Burke. And so far, there have been no reason to change that. And outside of Joe Alonzo, losing the title and leaving the company, we haven't really seen a single title change in months. So I'm not saying it's like a spoiler, right? But if you present a poster and then you film this stuff back in March, and we're now in the middle of July watching these matches, and it's like, yeah, it's dated material, and it's also kind of giving you a spoiler, like, hey, none of this matters until we get to the pay-per-view anyways, because all roads lead to the 76, and damn anything else before that.
Jay, what was the original? Do we still doing what we were thinking about doing today?
We kind of fell off, didn't we? Yeah, I mean, I think we should still try to get to that.
It'll probably be a second part now, because I think we don't have time to really get through it unless we're going to do this till like 3 o'clock in the morning.
No, we're definitely not doing it till 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, I mean, we have about an hour left of this week's episode. So we could probably touch base. We could start on it. But what we were planning on doing was talking about the heavyweights of the NWA. And we were kind of going to rank them, I believe.
To give them a little scouting report, basically. Give them a little grade on what we think, both how they're presented and how they are as a talent, and then how they're presented by the NWA. So kind of giving the booking a grade, and their booking a grade, and their talent a grade, and how we believe that they could, what positives they bring to the NWA, and what we believe could, if you guys are old school guys, a lot of these guys have been around for a while. Remember the old scouting reports in the Pro Wrestling Illustrated magazine? They used to give a little report on a bunch of different wrestlers from different territories, give them a grade, give them a ranking, give them, positives and negatives. And I think it's something we could do, at least for some of the wrestlers, starting with maybe the EC3, to, our opinion on what we believe the NWA and their stars, what they have to offer being part of the program.
Okay. So, EC3 is certainly a good way to go.
Might as well start at the top, right?
Well, sure.
Start at the man.
So when we talk about the world's heavyweight champion, the man who defeated Tyrus to become the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion, he's defended the title. I think it's going to be close to 50 times by the time we get to the 76th anniversary show. And when it comes to EC3, right off the gate, he beats Tyrus at the 75th anniversary show in St. Louis. They do those tapings in Nashville, and he takes on Jay Bradley, successfully defeats Jay Bradley. Let me pull up his title defenses here. He went on to face Jack Stane. He went on to face Silas Mason. He went on to face Tom Latimer. Obviously, I'm not listing these in order, but you kind of get where I'm going with this. I feel like I'm interested in where you want to go with this, but I feel like as far as EC3 goes and being the world's heavyweight champion, I think he's done everything that he could possibly do to make the title meaningful and to have some really more memorable moments in the NWA. He defeated former champion Matt Cardona. He defeated Tom Latimer, who's always been a number one contender for that title, or top contender for that title. He beat the former champion in Jack Stane. He's beat both members of the Fixers, who are huge, big guys. He beat Lord Crew. He beat Delson Alexander. He defeated Crowbar. He defeated Pat Buck. He defeated Talos. He defeated Fodder twice. He defeated Cha Cha Charlie. He defeated The Boar. He defeated John McChesney. He defeated Luke Curtis. He defeated Drake Frost. He defeated Jack Vaughn, Ron Mathis, Steve Fender, Carson Drake, Drew Marshall. All of these guys have fallen to the world's heavyweight champion. Ryan Cross, Mario Pardua, and Mims at the same time. He defeated Sam Adonis. He defeated Warhorse. He defeated Ryuki Honda. He defeated PB Smooth. He defeated Keegan Brettle. He defeated Channing Decker. He defeated Bill Collier. He defeated Tristan Archer. And he defeated Elias and the Red Scorpion in Italy. I mean, he's beaten some pretty decent names in that mix and some of the biggest names in the NWA.
Yeah, and I'm only going to grade what I see in the NWA, honestly, or what I've been trying to read through, especially some of the ones that the bigger stars, so I have a more of a following what's going on. But I'm only going to grade what he's done specifically in the NWA. And as a champion, as a presentation, I'm giving EC3 an A, but not quite an A+.
Okay.
He's got a lot, and he brings a lot. I think there are some things he could do to maybe build himself up to another level, but I think it's tweaks instead of complete overhauls. But I think as a champion, he's a great champion. He's got a look. He looks like a champion who stands out on the poster. He's got the markings on his arm are unique. Even the broccoli Jim Bro hairstyle has something as an appeal because it's annoying and he's a heel, so it's supposed to be. He talks well. He looks the part. He has okay matches. His matches don't have the levels that I've seen him do in the past, but I think it may be how they're presenting him and what they want him to do, and not necessarily what he has. And don't forget, he's done all this stuff outside of the NWA too. I think the NWA presents him probably one of the better ways they do, but I'm only going to give them a B on how they present him, because there's still ways they need to build up challengers. It's nice that he's beaten these people, but these matches should have been built up. They should have gotten wins ahead of time. There should have been a program. One of the things I think they do wrong, well, there's a lot, and I know it's partially because of their taping schedule, they should have these guys get 3 or 4 wins in a row. If they have 5 weeks of TV taped, 3 of those weeks should be matches the challenger gets to put his way up there, and the other 2 weeks should be interviews to talk about it, and then the final week should be him against the champion. They should all build toward. I know they can't build toward pay-per-view, but it's still easy if you have a great structure to build toward a challenger and build all these challengers to the world title. And I think that's where the presentation lacks. Is I remember back in the old NWA days, Ric Flair had 100 challengers that he could have been plugged into any single time and it matched. And during the Great American Bash, he did like 18 shows and 18 different challengers. I don't think the NWA has made one challenger seem exciting for any of the championship matches, not even Cardona, because they didn't build it right. And then the match was, I didn't give a crap about what it was going to, the match to begin with. So I think that's where the NWA fails that. So I give him an A. I give the NWA a B because it's probably the best promotion they've done. But I say for scouting reports, they could do more by building up his challengers. DK.
Well, when it comes to him, I think he's doing all he can do. So I give him an A. Out there being seen and defending his title, I only give the NWA a C though, and one because they do lack building up anybody. I mean, just totally do not build them up, and then 2 because of the way they've gone with these shows, they don't give us matches anytime. And so he's kind of defending willy-nilly against whoever in 10-minute matches. okay, if you're going to do it, if you're going to put him in a match on a signature live event, let him go 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes, and you just have to factor that into your TV time. I mean, they run 45 minutes on an episode, so you can put on a 30-minute match with a few minutes beforehand recapping and a few minutes after talking about what happened.
Yeah, and then say you have standby matches in the background.
In an interview or something like that. Sure, if you do a shorter one. But I mean, you could do a show that was all that. I mean, look, AEW recently did its best rating in a long, long time. They went up 100,000 from the week before, and it was almost all based on the fact that they had MJF and Ospreay go for 59 minutes and 58 seconds. So it took me a while to be able to find that one since I don't record them anymore. But my point is, they were able to maintain their audience. If you listen to Jim Cornette, he does the breakdowns. And so they maintained their audience throughout that hour. They had a very small slippage from the end of the Big Bang to them going off, and you put on a story, you put on a good match, people pay attention, people want to see more. I mean, right now, why would I want to go to a signature live event to see EC3 defend the title against somebody who hasn't been there for a while, or been around for a while, or we haven't heard about for a while, and then watch the match go 10 minutes and kind of end out of nowhere? Oh, I did want to bring up one more thing from Power, since somebody brought it up earlier.
We're out of that, DK. We're out of that. We're in a different situation now. Screw Power.
No,
we're in a completely different thing now.
The 10-minute draw, only because it relates. It relates because I'm going to talk about the National Heavyweight Champion having a 10-minute draw with Kerry Morton, which I thought was terrible booking. So anyway, okay. Who's next on your list, Mr. Jaden?
Well,
wait a minute, Jay. What does Jay think?
Yeah, who do you think next is somebody we need to grade?
I've got the graphic ready for Tom Latimer, so let's go there.
All right, Jay, DK, do you want to start this one?
I can start this one. I'll give Latimer probably himself somewhere around an A-. I only know about what he does in the NWA. They don't give him enough opportunity to talk, but I think one of my things is that, and I'll look at the match with Kerry Morton, I thought it should have been slightly one-sided, even if they were going to do a 10-minute draw. I was not into it just being like 100. Boy, I don't know that I want my head that big. I don't know. He's a big guy, and he's a good big guy, and he's a tough big guy. And I don't know that he should have had done some of the selling that he did do for Kerry Morton. And not Kerry Morton specifically, but a guy of Kerry Morton's size and build. So that's going to be a little bit down. I'm not sure NWA knows how to use them. So they kind of push start him a lot, push stop him. Push him, stop, push him, stop, push him, stop. Let's throw him in the title match. Kind of weird ending. So I'll give them a C+. I'll give him an A-.
Okay, Jay, you want to go?
Sure. So again, when we think about Tom Latimer, and it's kind of hard just to put the last year in a vacuum, right? Because he as in the NWA, he's been very consistent, I think. He has held 3 of the 4 major titles for a men's wrestler. He's held the World Tag titles. He held the television title. He held the national title. And the only thing that's really stopping is the world title. And, he's had very few title defenses since becoming champion. He won the title back at Hard Times back in March. He had this TV taping was done back in April. So he defended against Kerry Morton in April, went to a time limit draw. Then another title defense against Zion in May, and had another title defense in June with FTW and the NWA. But that's again not seen by the NWA audience. So since becoming champion some 4 months ago, he's had 2 title defenses, which to me is kind of a disappointing outcome, because I think you want your champions to defend their titles. And I know that this NWA isn't the old NWA, and I know that you're not going to see a title defended every 30 days like it used to be, but I feel like it's just like we're not getting enough out of Tom Latimer. And again, I don't blame Latimer. I blame the booking. Latimer, as far as a talent, I feel like you're going to get a good match with him. He's got great intensity. Even if you want to say like, hey, maybe he shouldn't be going to a draw with Kerry Morton. Okay, let's put that in the equation. Let's drop him down to maybe a B+ instead of an A-. The booking's still been kind of shit. And, the same problems that plague our boy EC3, the world's heavyweight champion, also plague Tom Latimer. There has not been a rival for him. There has not been somebody that he has feuded over the title with. And remember, when he won the title back at Hard Times, it was in a 4-way against Burchill, Blake Troop, and Zion. And since becoming champion, he's only defended the title twice, and one of those was against Zion. Maybe if they wanted to start building that up and making it a more cohesive storyline, that it's Tom Latimer versus Austin Idol, Zion, and the Idol Mania Sports Management, whatever. But we haven't really got anything out of him, and I feel like I feel disappointed for the guy, because look at him. He looks how you want your wrestlers to look. His promos are pretty good. He's not the greatest on the mic, but he's far from the worst. He carries himself with a presence. When you see Tom Latimer step in the ring, you're going to get some intensity. You're going to get some good wrestling. But the NWA booking has failed to make him a believable champion. So, I guess his grade for me, all in all, would be like a B, B-, where I would love to give the guy an A, because I think he's an A talent. The NWA certainly hasn't treated him as an NWA talent.
All right, and I guess I'm next. Scouting report I have on him is he's got a great look, great talent. He's actually decent on the mic. He can wrestle. He has a aura to him that could be used positively. Negative is going to go into my ranking. And the negative is I'm going to give him a ranking himself of a C-. His negative is he has the tools, but he doesn't use them. I spent, 11 hours last night watching things about promotion and about videos and about marketing and about selling and about all this other stuff. Unlike EC3, Latimer doesn't market himself. I don't feel that he's taken that national title and use it to elevate himself. And you can blame Billy Corgan, you can blame the NWA, you can blame whatever. You are a brand yourself. Latimer is a brand. And as a brand, he needs to do everything he can to make his brand more successful. I feel, and maybe I'm wrong, I don't see a lot on him like other wrestlers to promote themselves. I don't hear a lot about him. He doesn't seem to really just get out there and push himself as something bigger than anybody else out there. He doesn't push that brand as something that you need to buy. And I think that's what's holding him back a lot. Again, you blame the NWA's crappy booking, and I will, because it'll give them a really different ranking too. But he does not, and he has the ability, and this is why it's heartbreaking. He has the ability to make himself a brand, a Lexus. Instead, though, he's promoting himself as a Toyota.
Wow.
And people will reliable on Toyotas. They have a brand. They have, you know what you spend in Toyota. you don't go to a Lexus dealership to buy a Toyota. You go there to buy a Lexus. If you go up and say, well, the Lexus is more expensive than the Toyota, the Lexus dealer tell you, go buy a Toyota, then go to a Toyota dealership. Get out of here. That's what he needs to do, is he needs to make himself a premium brand, one of those luxury brands, and he is failing to do so. Now, as for the NWA, I give them a D-, maybe even an F+. They have not in any way, shape, or form used him in a great way. And everybody's going to go, oh, he's got titles. He's been a champion. I don't mean nothing. He's had a TV title, and do you feel like he's better off being a former TV champion? I don't. I forgot about it until Jay mentioned it. He didn't. Yeah. He again, it's partially his own fault, but the NWA did nothing to make him something special as a TV champion. And it's partially because of the whole stupid rule of giving up the title to get another title shot is stupid. And then he wins the national title that the guy who held before gave it up, that threw it away like it's a piece of nothing, like it's worthless just to give it a shot at the world title, that he got after a wrestler gave away and threw away like it was nothing to get a title shot. And he never, he didn't beat the national champion to get that championship. So he's already a paper champion who didn't beat the paper champion. And he hasn't done anything, honestly, to distinguish himself with that national championship to mean anything. And again, it's the NWA on this one, too. I'm going to play the NWA on this one. What have they done to make him as the national champion? How many images do you get to see in promos? I hear that the NWA doesn't even do promos anymore on their show. Why isn't he on their YouTube channel holding that belt, cutting promos? Why isn't he on the CW app cutting a promo, holding that belt, dressed to the nines, or looking like $1 million freaking dollars? Why isn't he not talking about how prestigious that championship is and all the challenges that he has for it, and how much this means to him, and how he's going to bring glory to it and be the greatest national champion ever and be better than Paul Orndorff or Tommy Rich or Dusty Rhodes or all of them? Why isn't he just going out there, and why isn't the NWA presenting him as something with that championship? It's a nice, right now that's the problem, is NWA's championships are props, and there's the problem. And it's just a nice little piece of jewelry, but it's not even as prestigious as a Rolex. You can go out with a Rolex, it'll probably be more than that national championship right now. And the NWA's failed him. They failed this city, and they failed everybody. But this one especially, this is something they could make money off. And I've not been a Latimer fan until more recently. But this is somebody that they can make money off of, and they're just failing it. They're throwing away money, throwing it out the door.
Jaden.
Who's next?
Jaden.
Yes.
In general, has the art of self-promotion been lost in wrestling?
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah. Honestly, people don't. All right. Anybody listening out here, Jay, you are a brand. And then you have a sub-brand of alliance-wrestling.com, and you have a sub-brand of the Lucha Libre, Vamanos Lucha Libre, or however how you say it.
Veamos.
Yes, that's it. What he said. And he has a brand of the Alliance Guys podcast, and he has a brand of everything else. As a brand, do you honestly believe, and that taking out family and taking out time and taking out sleep, do you believe that even with the limitations given you, that you've pushed yourself as that brand as much as you possibly can?
I mean, look, I have opportunities just like everybody else, but I feel like I do a pretty good job of promoting my brands, right? Like if you go to TikTok right now, there's a new video up almost every day. If you go to YouTube, this channel, there's a new video up every day. If you go to my business, Buckets for Rent, we have a dad joke every Friday. If you go to our Instagram account, I try to post photos from the shows. I'm not as regimented as I would like to be, but I try to post those all the time. The website has been struggling to get updated, but we always reference the website. We never forget about it. The social media accounts are updated quite frequently. So there's always some sort of content being generated. And that's being a father, husband, a business owner. So, I mean, I get the trials and tribulations and finding time to do things, but there's still, to the point that you made, all of these talents, all of these wrestlers should be able to find time to, if the NWA isn't going to make these promos for them, they should be making them themselves. They should be creating video packages, Instagram stories, doing AMAs, whatever they can do to get people talking about their name. And to your point, there's very few guys on the roster of the NWA doing that. There's very few guys in wrestling doing that.
Yes. And my point is, you've done all of that, and you do not have the platform that they got with Billy Corgan and the NWA and the CW. People don't realize that if you go to a podcast or something. Again, I watched 11 hours last night just because I wasn't sleeping. So I watched 11 hours straight of just random stuff about promotion, and a lot of it's like stuff like I hear so many people saying the same stuff I'm learning in class, either the exact same wording or variations of it. And it's so much out there. When you have content at that CW app, I don't know what they're allowed to do, but I would be taking highlights and showing various things and making shorts on YouTube on that. And that's what I'm going to start doing more. Well, I don't have nothing to promote, but I'm going to make sure I'm going to work with Dog and see if they can do something like that.
Yeah.
That there's going to be more shorts out there. And anytime anybody's on a podcast, the best way to get your podcast over is to take this podcast now is the raw steak, is the raw roast. And now you're going to cut this up and slice this up and add spice to it and put it everywhere. Anytime you're on a podcast, anytime you're on a television show, you should be finding a way to clip that and using it on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Twitter, and finding ways to slice that up. Every show is now this. People think that, all right, you got your CW show and that's it. That's all. No, from now on, that show is now broadcast into 6 or 7 different digestible pieces, and you're going to be showing that for the rest of the week. That's the NWA. That's Tom Latimer. That's everybody else. I think EC3 does it, and it's a lot more than anybody else. But most of the NWA wrestlers don't do a third of what J-Cal does with all his limitations.
I don't know if that's a compliment or not.
It is a compliment because you have things. You have a life. This isn't your business. This is just something you're doing, and you do all of this. This would be probably, even if this was bringing in the money and you weren't working and you had this, you'd probably be quadruple what you're currently doing.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, let's show a simple example from over the seas. In the United Kingdom, they recently had an election. And there was one political group. They only got like 5 seats, but they got like a large percentage of the vote nationwide. And they were really strong among the like 20 to 30s. One of the reasons, the guy that was kind of the de facto leader of the group did TikToks. He put out a lot of TikToks. Well, guess who watches TikToks?
The youth.
The 20s to 30s.
The youths.
Youths. Why do you think I spend so much time on TikTok?
To see scantily dressed women shake their butt.
No, DK, that's why I send you so many reels.
Well, that's why I don't go to TikTok.
Yeah, I send him all the reels because that way he doesn't have to go to TikTok.
Exactly.
No,
So,
but
seriously, yeah, I mean, this guy, and he's not young, he's not hip, he's not cool. He's to the right, of the political spectrum. So, and he's gathering the youth vote, which isn't normally considered big among the right. And he's doing it because he's putting out content in a way that they digest it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what people need to do is they need to splice these things up. From now on, any of these talking points for this blogcast, I'm sure Jay is going to start looking now. I would suggest from this point forward, and this is something, again, I learned, go get yourself one of those yellow legal notepads and have a pencil You've heard of those things? Write down time index. When you have something you think will make a good, something on a good 2-second, 20-second reel or Instagram video or short, write down the time index, and then you remember to go back and look and make that content. And to help you out, because I was trying to, Dr. Zirconium wanted to take some of that footage we did last week with Dave Dahl and stuff and use it on his Instagram channel. One of the problems was my sound quality was so horrible. I sounded like I had a mouthful of marbles, even though I'm loud and obnoxious. So I've already looking into getting a microphone from now on to make our sound quality better on this.
I can send you one. JLab. It's really really good microphone.
I was going to order one of those ones it's one of the Bluetooth rechargeable ones. So I don't have to actually. But
this one right here, I actually have taken it with me on the road to record podcasts while I'm in the car, and I haven't done a lot of it, but you can just plug it right into the USB-C port on the phone, and it's
okay.
But again, like if you can get a higher quality,
I don't care about. I mean, I do care about the quality, but I didn't know it was phone accessible. That's why I was looking to something like that, because I use the phone to talk to you guys.
Those Bluetooth ones are just as good, It's whatever. Like, look, I think I could spend a fortune on upgrading my recording equipment, and I'm just not going to do that. We're going to get by with what we got. But yeah, if you're looking to get a better recording device, you'll sound better on this podcast than any other podcast that Dr. Z has you do for Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell him to do the same thing, because he still uses the microphone with the long cable that you got from AV class in 1985.
One of the main reasons I did not go back and get all of those Blog Talk Radio shows that we did and just put them up on the YouTube pages, the audio quality was so garbage because we were talking on phones. And if you were on a cell phone, it was worse than if you were on a landline.
Wait, you were able to do that with a landline?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, you were calling, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, you just called in the number, and the landline always sounded better than the cell phone.
Well, for the longest time, that's always been that way.
And then towards the end of the run on that show, I was using Skype to dial in, so it was a more digitally sounded recording. But there was still oh god, it was awful. and that's the big reason why I haven't put them out, because it's I could probably fix all the audio at some point, but again, there's not enough hours in the day. I could literally make this a full-time job and still be busy every day.
And that's it. These guys, this is mostly their full-time jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So what else are they out there doing? It's not like they're even out there on Skype, not Skype, Twitch promoting themselves.
Yeah. And now we're falling into a different category, but I don't mind talking about it because, rising tide raises all ships. When you talk about the growth of this channel, right? Of this channel, when we started on Blog Talk Radio, we made the jump from an audio podcast to a video podcast. And, it was something that I was very reluctant to do because I didn't know how easy or difficult it would be or how good or bad it would look. And, we started off with just a couple of subscribers, and our first year into this, it wasn't much more than a couple hundred. And now we're rapidly approaching 5,000. And what it is, it's constantly updating, constantly promoting yourself, constantly putting content out, being consistent with your content. And for anybody who's either doing a podcast or promoting themselves, their wrestling show, their Twitch account, whatever it is, consistency is key. And marketing yourself, you don't need to spend a fortune on marketing. You just need to be consistent, and you need to get exposure. And you can get exposure without having someone spotlighting you. Like the NWA doesn't put a spotlight on this show. The NWA doesn't retweet these videos. They don't share these videos. They don't, no one from their social media account is sharing the content that we create here. NWA fans are finding this because of either you guys are sharing it within the circle, or we're using the right hashtags and you guys are discovering it. It was never no one from the NWA is supporting this, right? as much as we are passionate about the NWA, it's not it's not well received. Either they don't like what we're doing, or they're just not supporting it. Either way, it's a struggle for anybody who's trying to do something on social media. It's not easy. So all that to say is, what Jaden's saying is right. There's a lot that they could be doing to growing not only their shows and their own version of their podcast, but they could be growing their talent and doing all these things, and they don't.
Do you think Gary would do our podcast, your podcast?
No, I think Gary loves me and I love Gary. We'd be heterosexual life partners if he lived closer, but I don't think he's at liberty to come onto this podcast because he is an employee from the NWA. He's not a wrestler. He's not a contracted talent. He's an employee of the National Wrestling Alliance. And I think that prohibits him from coming on, at least being able to speak to us in a more formal fashion.
That's a shame, because I'd like to hear more from him and talk to him more and stuff like that. And that's hopefully maybe that'll change in the future. I mean, I know we're not bought and paid for by Billy Corgan, even though DK would for some good barbecue, I'm sure. But we're not bought and paid for.
I am bribable.
Yes.
Well, and that's the thing. Like that door is always open. Like there's a reason why, over the years, we are not only limited to talking about the NWA. We don't just talk about the NWA anymore. We talk about all the wrestling promotions, because the loyalty from the NWA wasn't there. During the Dave Marquez and Bruce Tharp and Robert Trowbridge era, they all of the promoters wanted to reach out to us, and now it's like you have to beg talent to even want to come on. And I get it, because the reach isn't what maybe it was when we were on Blog Talk Radio, but everyone and their brother has a live stream now, a podcast, whatever. But this is the core demographic. The people are in this chat are those who are watching the NWA every single week. You don't need to hire a market research group. You could literally come into the chat, and if we're talking about power, exactly what's working and what's not. I don't think they care about that, to be quite honest. I don't think they care about those that information. I think they want to be successful, but like DKM has said many times in the past, I think they want to be successful because they make us enjoy what they want, not to cater to what we want.
One of the things right now with the NWA is we may not like the NWA right now, but we want to.
Yeah.
We still have a love for the NWA. I'm not a fan of the product at the moment, but I always want the NWA to be successful, and I wish it was, and I would like it to be. And one of the things I did recently is I went around to try to find people talking about the NWA, and there's not a lot. And even when they are, it's very negative, but there's not even a lot that even give it the negative publicity.
Yeah.
There's just not a lot of people talking about it. And there's I think where the NWA is a failure. Yes, we're not corporate shills. We don't ass kiss. We don't sit there and like, oh, the NWA is the greatest thing, and I'm going to sit there in my basement and talk about how great it is, and I'm an NWA labor, and if you don't like the NWA, and you're a WWF fan, and you suck. But yeah, we're not that. There's probably never really many NWA fans are going to feel that way, but we want the NWA to be successful, and we'd like to get the NWA name out there. And maybe if the NWA worked more with us or the wrestlers of the NWA, again, getting yourself over.
Yeah.
Maybe that there'll be more people. We'll create a wave to more people talking about the NWA.
Yeah. Yeah, you're
could be synergistic. And again, we're not ass kissers, so you're not going to get all the love and all the greatness. And if you're a sycophant that only cares about your ego, then what the hell are you doing and promoting? Yeah. But still, do we get probably time for one or two more?
Yeah, let's try to get one or two more. Who are you thinking about next?
Well, who is the next heavyweight that you would consider in hierarchy that people would care about? I was about to say the TV champion, but we can't do that.
What about the Baron? What about Baron Von Storm?
They're going to leave me to start with that with Baron Von Storm. I love Tim Storm. I think that 10 Pounds of Gold series showed everybody something special that Tim Storm had, that he had a unique story to tell. Wrestling's all about telling stories. It's about personal issues and personal connections. And Tim Storm had that personal connection, and they built a good personal issue with Nick Aldis. And we wanted to cheer for him. He's got that Rudy-like, yes, he looks like a freaking tank, but he's got that Rudy-like personality where he's even though he was NWA champion, he's an underdog. He's a man of the people. We liked him. Baron Von Storm is, okay, I want to put him out there, but we got to create something funny or unique or something like that. It just doesn't work. It is a stupid gimmick that is stupid Von pushed on a wrong stupid Von wrestler. And I give Tim Storm as a personality a B with a potential to be an A. I give the NWA's use of him. What's lower than an A? Is it E?
Yeah.
Is E lower than F or is F lowest? I don't remember. I forgot how that worked. But it's the worst grade you could possibly give.
You sound like you are negotiating for the Chewbacca's life on Tatooine right now.
Am I going?
It's you sound like, yato.
Oh, I don't know. It is so bad, their presentation of him. He's got a unique story. He was likable. He had a personal connection. And they've sharded the bed from almost the beginning of Power after those 10 Pounds of Gold series on what they had, that goodwill that they built up to it. He could have turned heel and it could have worked. But this whole Baron, this completely personality change, there's no reason behind it, no explanation behind it. It's Billy Corgan having a very limited understanding of pro wrestling, but thinking he's an absolute genius. Or if this was Tim Storm's idea, Tim, why? And how is being a German, by the way, in modern society going to affect your teacher career? If somebody comes out and goes, here's Baron Von Storm doing a Nazi gimmick, do you think that's going to help your teaching career any? Do you think the school board is going to like finding that out? You know, seriously, why would you do something so dumb? If it was your idea, don't have ideas anymore. If it's Billy's idea, smack him. Please smack him so hard his hair grows back. Because that hurts you. That hurts the product. It's as dumb as doing boogers, sugar, and gags the gimp and everything else. It hurts the product. It hurts the perception. It hurts the ability and the marketability. And it's bad. It is really, really bad. So, yeah, there's my rankings. There's my scouting report. Who wants to do it next?
DK, do you want to go or should I go?
Oh, you go.
So the whole Baron Von Storm gimmick, I think, is terrible. Like, look, I think you could have had a couple of badasses, a couple of veterans in Tim and Jax that you were building towards. Like, they had the match at 76 that unfortunately came to a very early end because, Jax did not take it easy on his old pal Tim, tossed him across the ring, and Tim thought he was paralyzed, and that's just the honest truth. And I feel like they dropped the ball ever since then. And if you were going to reunite these two and make them into a tag team, which I think would have been great, these guys should have been your U.S. tag champions. These should have been your gatekeepers to test out the new blood. Like, why did we put the belts on Talos and Daisy Kills? Why did we put the belts on, the Immortals? The Immortals should have been pursuing Blunt Force Trauma more than anybody else. They're the team that they beat them in the Crockett Cup. Getting back to Tim, the gimmick change didn't make sense. Like, they tried to play it up on TV that he snapped because he got kicked in the head and snapped on Markova. It was dumb. It was stupid. It still is dumb and stupid. I love Tim Storm. Tim Storm, I would consider him a friend of the show. He would be welcome to come on here anytime, and I would regretfully have to tell him, like, I think this gimmick is shit. So I would give the whole concept of this Baron Von Storm, no, it's an F. I can't get behind it.
It's also 2024. Do we really need to be having CTE and brain damage and mental issue storylines?
Yeah, and you know, on top of that too, like you referenced the whole Nazi thing, and they have not played up to that point. But you know, there's no need to. There's no need to even do this gimmick. It's stupid. And you know, if you want to have a German wrestler and have them, you know, have these tendencies, then just, I don't know, maybe go find a wrestler that is unknown or very not well known and push that gimmick on them, as opposed to putting your former world champion. I think this puts a stain on a part of Tim's legacy, because you know it was all downhill after the 10 pounds of gold series started. And
Yeah.
Jaden, you nailed it on the head with that one. It's been all downhill, and there was such a people who I know that didn't even like the NWA. There's, believe it or not, I know enough people in the industry. Enough people who work with competing wrestling promotions, smaller independents, and they had no love for the NWA, but they loved Tim Storm. They loved the whole storytelling of the 10 pounds of gold. They found you know, they struck gold with that 10 pounds of gold, pun totally intended. And then they just wasted it after Storm lost, and you know the focus went to Aldis. That was still good too. That was still exciting times, but you know, you just kind of tossed Timmy away like he was no longer valuable, and I don't think they've been able to capitalize off of his popularity ever since.
And you're saying it's not a Nazi, but Baron von Storm is associated with Nazi. It'd be like, it's no different than somebody saying their name is Hitler Johnson. Oh, I'm no Nazi, but your name is Hitler.
Yeah.
Baron von is a Nazi gimmick. DK, what's your opinion?
My opinion is you sound like you're in a tin can. My opinion on Tim Storm is I love Tim Storm. I mean, I do. I just love Tim Storm. Met him a few times. Seems to be a very nice guy. Should he still be wrestling actively at almost 60? Not so sure. I mean, I don't like the gimmick. I don't like that he's agreed to it. I don't like that the NWA is doing it. I'm at a loss. Just, it's sad. It's a sad thing for him, and it's a sad thing for the NWA that they have to do goofy. I mean, NWA has moved into doing goofy, and it's a shame. I think sometimes this is what happens. I don't know if this is what happens when one person gets an idea, and one guy gets an idea and it goes unchecked, or when the wrong people sit around brainstorming and think, oh, this is brilliant.
Or when somebody doesn't come out and say, no, that's stupid.
Yeah.
Because they ass-kiss the boss.
I mean, just the only thing I find really interesting is that when Jack Stain was World Heavyweight Champion, part of his gimmick at the time was he didn't talk much. And I just find it interesting that now you have him and Tim Storm as this team, and for a while, Jax has almost been like a smooth talker.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, if we could have got smooth talking Jax at the same time we had Monster Jax and done a mesh of those two, that would have been just awesome. But for this is just sad. I mean, sad.
Do we have time for one more?
Yeah, we can do one more.
Pick somebody different, somebody in a different persona. So it's something we could, a different limelight, not a Danny limelight.
How about let's go Silas Mason, the former national champion.
There's the one I was hoping you were went for now. That was the one I was hoping you were going to originally. Okay. Since DK's leaving, Jay, you start this one.
All right. So what can we say about Silas Mason? I think in terms of presentation, tell me who's better than Silas Mason. We all marveled at his ability to get himself over via promo during those Joe Kazana promotions on the local Tennessee television. The promos, the ode to Southern wrestling. I mean, that I think is 100% what you want to build the future of the NWA on. And when you talk about a guy who, he's been on the show, DK and I had words with him before. He is a skilled competitor. He's very good in the ring. He's a collegiate wrestler. He has a background in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. The guy is ready for a shoot fight. And he has, superstar size, superstar strength. Hell, he was in the damn Von Erich movie. That says something about his stature as a pro wrestler. And when you look at the guy, like, again, this is him with the national title. It's a dated photo. Sure, this is from just after the 76th anniversary show last year. He's a star. He's a star waiting to happen. And they put the national title on him. They gave him a few, ham and egger type matches. He didn't really do much as champion. They used the old, hey, I'm going to cash in to get a world title match, which still I think is insanely stupid. But he's a guy that I feel like could really represent the NWA well. The content that he has done on his own to promote himself has been done very well, very entertaining. He's out there. He's a loose cannon, and he needs to be dealt with. And I think he is one of the things that the NWA has done correctly. Outside of the whole cashing in the national title, I think he is the right guy in the promotion. And I still hope that at some point they put a rocket to him and just launch him to the moon. I give Silas Mason as a wrestler, as a character, as a gimmick, an A+. As a self-promoter, I give him an A+. What the NWA has done with him, I mean, look, he was national champion. He's been in the main event for the world title. The Southern Six is finally starting to get some momentum again. I'd give him a solid B for what the NWA has done with him. But I love the guy. I think he's great.
Who do you want to go to next, Jay?
Let's go DK so that you could be the one to close it out.
Well, gee, thanks. No, seriously, Silas was great. Well, he is great on the mic. He's believable in the ring. And I really thought he was going somewhere. I almost think the worst thing that happened to him was winning the national championship. He of course lost to EC3, and EC3 threw the belt down. He then won the title, and then he gave the belt up. He had his match with EC3. Honestly, it wasn't a very good match. It was okay if you take into consideration the fact of they were filming it as a premium live event and that had to fit into their TV thing. And again, instead of making an episode around the world championship, they just, kind of fell flat, never got into second gear. And then not a lot's happened with him since. And I'm under the impression, since he started as the part of the tag team for Crockett Cup, that he was probably supposed to be a big part of that. Because he was injured, wasn't able to do that. So I've heard he's back. I don't know. And again, with the NWA's weird taping schedule, I'm assuming we'll see him some in this next TV thing. Him as a wrestler, as a promo, as a guy that can talk people into the building, yeah, you got to go with an A+ with him. NWA is probably fading, and how they're using them is probably fading a little bit. They were using them good at one point, but they didn't take advantage of it. And so I'd probably go with a C for how they've actually promoted him. And before we go to Jaden on the last thing, I think one of the things that's sad is every time Jaden asks for who do you want to talk about next, I'm struggling to come up with top heavyweight wrestlers.
Yeah,
he was about the only one I could think of.
He was the one I was really hoping Jay would have brought me to. Yeah.
So, but anyway, so Jaden, what are your thoughts to close this out?
All right, I'm unfairly grading Silas on a curve because he's so good that to what I need to do at a Silas level, A+ is different than when anybody else. If anybody does half of what they did, it would probably be an A. Even EC3, if EC3 does what Silas did, he would have been an A++. But the problem is Silas is so good at getting himself over and getting his persona out there and getting himself noticed that he has not hit that point recently.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give him an A- on the Silas scale. Anybody else, again, it's unfair curve, but anybody else that same scale where they would be well beyond, they would shut the stratosphere. But based on what I've seen he could do and the capability and the potential and that ceiling, I think he's got an A- for Silas. Now, to do better, if he could hire himself a good social media manager, somebody who is good at promoting him and taking what the foundation that he builds and just be able to put a little decoration on it, a little pizzazz, I think he could be the person people in the NWA care about, that talk about, more so than even EC3, more so than even Billy Corgan. So if he can get a good social media manager, can take some of these highlights and catch these promos and have him on these different channels promoting himself and the NWA and everything else out there, I think he could be the biggest thing in wrestling and really get a lot of positive attention that the NWA can capitalize on. So get him on those podcasts. Get yourself on podcasts, Silas. Get yourself on television shows. Take that footage from the championship, from the Joe Kazana promotions. Do everything you can and put yourself multiple times a week on TikTok, on Instagram, on social media. Have yourself out there talked about on any kind of website. Get yourself on radio shows. Get yourself back on local television shows. There's where you really thrive. And take that footage again and make as much of it as possible. Make multiple content to add to it. There's your steak, and now you have to break that down to multiple meals because you're sitting there meal planning. You got to feed these people that everything they can on Silas Mason and make sure they got so much flavor that they never get tired of devouring you. And get yourself somebody out there who can do this for you if you can't do it yourself, and really push it, because you have something special. You have something that other than EC3, I don't think anybody in the NWA has. So get yourself out there seen and have every single chance you can out there to push the Silas Mason brand, because that brand right now could be a luxury brand, an elite brand, a premium brand, and not like a Walmart brand. Second, so I give yourself, that's why I'm giving you A-. The NWA, I'm giving them an F. They have taken something that's got him, a person that's got himself over, and done everything they can to get him under. They haven't capitalized on anything. They haven't promoted him right. He should have beaten EC3 for the national title and then had EC3 win the world title and then have an instant challenger with a reason to give him a championship match and give him a bunch of wins as a national champion and make everybody beg and want to see that, and then have a absolute banger. I hate that expression. You kids understand it. Have an absolute banger of a match and built up in weeks and promos and storylines, and have that match mean something. And then that loss would have elevated you. Instead, you lost. Then you won a title that was thrown away, and then you threw that title away, and then you lost again. And that's not against you. That's the bad booking of the NWA. They have really dropped the ball. The Southern Six, I think, they're taking away from Poyo, has taken away something that was a unique focal point, a unique promotional point, something that you don't see. Their odd couple chemistry. Oh my God, it's a dog.
The dog behind you, DK. Your dog.
Yeah, I had a little cameo. It was really cool.
In the screen, and then like it unblurred for a second. It just kind of freaked us both out.
Yes, but yeah, they drop the ball huge. Even if they went to Southern Six, they need flashy robes. They need flashy music. They need interesting promos. The NWA does not do promos, and that's another thing that's, God, that drives me nuts. They do not have any of the marketing tools that they need to do out there. None of the 4 things or 5 things that are actually make up marketing, and they don't do any of them right.
Well, we'll continue this conversation, I think, next week, and we're gonna spend time talking about wrestling like we did this week, but we'll spend some time looking at the more NWA heavyweights. Noob was asking earlier if this is going to stretch out to the women. I'm not sure when we'll get to the women, but we certainly will, because I feel like there's a lot of conversation to be had there as well.
Tag teams too,
and the
junior heavyweights.
Yeah, the 2 guys?
Auxiliary talent.
Yeah, we'll get into all of it, because I think this is an interesting conversation, and of course, Jade and DCAM are very opinionated, and they have their own points of view on this.
We are not. We are fair.
I'm not opinionated. I'm just right.
And they're contrarian.
I am not opinion. I am right. There's a difference between having an opinion and stating facts. And I'm just spitting out these facts right now.
He's dropping bars, folks.
Yep.
All right, but that's going to do it for us this week. So again, guys, thanks for tuning in. Next week, I'll be back here on Tuesday with the pre-party. Stay tuned to the Alliance to see more and more content. If you would be so inclined, check out Veamos Lucha Libre. I will be down in Tijuana this Saturday. I'll be filming some fresh content. You can see the likes of Máscara Dorado, Místico. Let's see who else is going to be down there. I'm not sure.
Does Tijuana have its own flag?
No. I mean, they might. I haven't seen it. When I get down there, look. You want to know how
barbecued iguana?
You know how I get into TJ and get home safe every single time? I get in an Uber, I drive to the auditorium. I go from the auditorium back into the Uber, and I cross the border, not in a vehicle, but in my own free will. I walk across the border, and I've never had any issues, and God willing, it stays that way. Pray for my safety. I got a wife and kids. All right, so that's gonna do it. If you guys
and a DK and a Jaden.
Yeah,
but he did say kids. Okay.
That's right.
With that being said, make sure you check out the socials at the Alliance blog. Like I said, a lot more content is being posted. If you're on TikTok, there's new videos every day. If you're on YouTube, there's new videos every day. We're trying to get more and more content up on X and on Facebook and on Instagram and on Reels. So stay tuned to all of that to see more and more content. And then also, if you are interested in merchandise, we have new shirts, new hats, with more new shirts coming. We are getting into the thick of it, folks. We're gonna have a new shirt coming out again very, very soon. So please, if you want to help support the show financially, you could do that. You could buy
the shirt.
You could buy a championship belt from Trophy Smack. The link is in the bio. Use the code TheAllianceBlog. Same thing when you're buying your W. If you need a jitterless energy to get you through your day, W is a great source for that. That's also the link is in the bio.
Yeah, just don't use the link, because I used the link and it got me to this thing, but didn't give me the credit. You have to put in the code.
Yeah, you have to put in the code.
Yes, and they wouldn't do nothing about it when I mentioned it. Still not.
And well, you bought a lot of Debbie too.
Well, the first one apparently you got the information, but I've been buying it since, and then I all of a sudden realized you never got the any of the thing that did, and that's why I figured that out. You probably should have got about 4 or 5 W's, because I love that peach.
That beach, the beach and peach is good, man. And I know it's not, it's not crazy, but it's tasty. Anyways, we're gonna let everyone go tonight and enjoy your evening, and we will see you on Tuesday. But until then, we'll see you at the matches.
Podcast.
Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do